Hello guys and welcome back. So we have here another deck tech or feature for the standard format with Duskmourn, and we're going to explore one of the posted results for the MTG top 8 site. And this number one or first place deck is this Dimir Control by Abe Kenichi. So it's like as a local tournament in Japan. It's not really that much of the participants, but I'm pretty sure most of the new, innovative, or somewhat like different take of the existing archetypes are featured in those kinds of tournament scenes. And so this deck would now go with not only going with just a typical control, but just again going with the mill plan in most of its games. As we all know before, particular Planeswalker here, as you noticed, is mainly used in the sideboard, but now it's completely 4-ops copy of Jace the Perfected Mind in the main deck. So let's take a look at the build. So we have 5 creatures, 23 instants, 2 sorceries, 6 lands, and of course the namesake Planeswalker Jace the Perfected Mind with 4 copies, along with 15 card sideboard. So what do this card would have to be in combination with? So check out Doomsday Excruciator. So this is with 4 copies in the deck. It goes well with this ability that when enters, if it is cast, each player exiles all but the bottom 6 of their library face down. And then on your upkeep, we will draw a card. The only combo here is that you can get to exile all of the library except the bottom 6 cards. So with this ability entering, as it resolves right after, in case that there are no responses whatsoever, you then activate Jace the Perfected Mind's ability to mill target player X cards 3 times. So that kind of way for you to just really win out with that kind of setup without ever using Doomsday to attack. But in any cases, if you get to not be able to have this ability, or maybe it has became a target of a Tidebinder, then you can just still go with a 6/6 flyer that can just finish games quickly with this kind of shell of making sure that no other threat from your opponent would resolve or be on the battlefield. And so with the support of the 4 copies of Doomsday Excruciator, we have a copy of Harvester of Misery, which also acts as a spot removal by this ability. So then pay to discard in -2/-2, but also becomes a sweeper on its own and gets you a 5 for menace creature spirit in the board. And the support of the instance, of course, with the Dimir nature of being a control deck, is composed, of course, of several variants of spot removals and counter spells. So see here, let's check on the grid view. Your spot removals are very much evenly distributed. We have with Reflection, Cut Down, Go for the Throat, and Childish Edict. Much more with other counter spells of Phantom Interference, which can also create a token on its own, can also become a good source for an attacker. And 3 Steps Ahead, which can not only counter spell but also gets you to draw 2 cards and then discard a card. So with this setup, we have a 1-of here that can also get you 2 options of countering spells and also Surveil to then draw 2 cards. But the main thing of your purpose here, along with the Deduce, are to make sure that you can still have a mass consistent spot removals and counter spells and card draws to make sure that your hand are still refilled up until your opponents would really run out of gas, and for you again to resolve your Excruciator and come back for the win with combination of Jace the Perfected Mind. So in addition also for the spot removals, of course, we need mass removals in a form of Deadly Cover Up, which also gets you to collect evidence 6, that whenever you destroy all creatures, you can exile a card from your opponent's graveyard if you paid the collect evidence. So also a 2-for-1 effect, but so that's probably still the best mass removal card for the current standard for the black color. And in addition for the lands. So not only would you have this mana fix with the Dark Shores, Gloomlake Birds, and other city sewers, but also Restless Leaf can also get you an attacker in the mid game that can also get to exile or mill out opponents with this ability. With having a 4/4 blue and black shark creature token with the Death Touch, and 2 copies of Cavern of Souls, which also like to make sure that naming a demon would let you resolve this Crusader and matchups against the mirror match or even for the Azorius control matchups. And with the 26 lands in total, I'm pretty sure that this build would really be the best land count for this kind of setup, since you can see here that there's no other shenanigans such as Fable Passage to filter out lands or use Murex to generate your army of tokens, but also having only Restless Leaf as your Sure Ball 4/4 Death Touch attacker that also coincides with your main strategy of milling out your opponents. Now for your setup of your sideboard, let's take a look. We have variants of discard, also additional spot removal and mass removal, and of course a cheap mass removal and malicious eclipse, which works with the Boros Kanbong matchup or even with the mono red aggro decks. Copies of Into the Flood Mode, which also can be relevant, bouncing relevant creatures, but also giving them a gift would also matter in the late game. By instead of bouncing creature, you get to bounce a relevant non-land permanent, and then you get to counter it later on. And also additional support for Graveyard Shenanigans or your Ghost Vacuum. Will get to exile a card from Graveyard, then you can pay 6 later on to sacrifice it. For each creature card exiled with Vacuum is put to the battlefield under your control with a flying counter on it and becomes a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types. So gets a good threat later on, much more if you can also exile those creatures that has the ATB effects or enter the battlefield kind of setup. In addition, also with the matchup for the mid-range or other control, are the support of your Jures are 3 copies of Negate. So countering also non-creature spells would also relevant in some of the matchups. So this is probably your solid 2 mana counter spell for that one. And additional 1 copy of Tishana's Deadbinder, which also goes to become a threat on its own. Can flash off to counter triggered or activated abilities and nullify those artifact, creature, or planeswalker that's countered this way. So that in our lineup is your total of your 15 sideboard. Let's check on the deck stats. It's mostly black with these copies of 40. Cost is also 22 for blue, but the production is pretty much even with blue and black, almost the same with the average percentage. And your average mana value is surprisingly low in a control setup, but make sure that your 6 mana late game are be able to resolve along with Jace to finish off the game as quickly as possible. So with the 26 lands, it makes sure that this could not be missed for your land drops, and even resolve a Jace with a counter mana backup, for example, against your opponents with also having a counter spells on their own. And last but not the least, we check on some tokens. We have 4 tokens and extras here. We have blue token, a copy token, fish token from Into the Flood Mode, and spirit token. That's also produced by the counter phantom interference. So I guess that's pretty much it for this kind of deck. It's pretty much very simple, straightforward Dimir, but the win condition is somewhat goes well with having to resolve a Doomsday Crusader and Jace. Would really be fun to watch in your local game setup. So if you ever have seen this kind of matchup, for example, if you have several local game stores having standard tournaments and seen this deck in your community, just let me know in the comments what you think are your observations and what will be the possible upgrades, if ever, if we go with this kind of route of Crusader and Jace, the perfected mind meal combo for the standard format. Again guys, that's pretty much it. Dimir control by Abby Kenichi for the standard format. Do check and follow, like and subscribe, notifications bell on, and see you guys on the next video upload.